Hello and welcome to Harvest to You. I'm Pastor Marc, and it is a blessing to have you with us today. Listen, before we start the sermon, I want you to know about harvesttoyou.org. This is a space where you can find additional resources like sermons and devotionals, even a book I recently wrote. It's also a space where you can request prayer. I know that life can be hard, even lonely sometimes, and we would love to come alongside you with resources, equipping, and prayer for your life. Head on over to harvesttoyou.org.
Go to 1 Timothy chapter number 6. We will round out our series on the practices of Jesus, and next week we will begin a sermon series for the Christmas season in the month of December. But for today, here we are on one more practice of Jesus. Let's begin this morning, not necessarily with reading some scripture, but perhaps quoting some lyrics from pop, rock, and country songs. Let's start with pop. I don't know if you've ever seen The Greatest Showman. It is a movie that is loosely based off of P.T. Barnum's life. And there's this moment in the middle of that movie. And by the way, I think it's a fantastic movie. Go watch it if you never have. But there's this Swiss opera singer who he's hired to kind of be part of his cohort, and she is singing a song called Never Enough. And the chorus to that song says, "All the shine of 1,000 spotlights and all the stars we steal from the night sky will never be enough. Towers of gold, still too little. These hands could hold the world, but it'll never be enough." In rock music, Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones said it more succinctly as "can't get no satisfaction." That's the same idea that we can't be satisfied. Our desires are in many ways insatiable. And I think many people can relate to this, that oftentimes we feel like if we just had a little bit more, then we'd be good. If I had a little bit more money in my paycheck, if I had a little bit more PTO, if I had a little bit more cushion in my savings or my retirement, if I had a little more stuff in my closet, just another sweater, if I had a little more square footage in my home, then I'd be satisfied. And when you know it, you get a little more and you still want a little bit more, don't you? There's something in us that the more we get, the more we want. There's a reason why that cliche floats around, because it's true. John D. Rockefeller, the richest man in the world at the time, was once asked, "How much money is enough?" And his answer was, "A little more. I just want a little bit more." All of these speak to our insatiable desires that we have just as humans. There's a theological perspective on this, and the theological perspective for Christians is that we are made by and for an eternal God. We are finite creatures who were made by and for an infinite God, literally designed for eternal life. And so when we take these desires that are meant to be placed onto an infinite God, and we misplace those desires onto money, toys, time off, even human relationships, then we find that they don't fulfill us and that we are constantly wanting more and more. Whether it's another zero at the end of our retirement account, or another collector's item, or one more trip on the bucket list, or one more car for the garage, or one more piece of home decor, or one more mount that gets taxidermied and put on my wall. I know it's opening of rifle season this weekend. It'll never be enough. At the risk of quoting too many country artists or too many music artists, Diamond Rio, the country group, had a song about how even human relationships can't satisfy us. And this is a song that is presumably a widow or widower singing to their spouse who they've lost some years ago. And they sing the chorus of their song, "One More Day." And they say it so well. They say, "One more day, one more time, one more sunset, maybe I'd be satisfied." Speaking of I just want one more day with this person. But then they go on to say, "Then again, I know what it would do. Leave me wishing still for one more day with you." Which is an apt way of saying my desires aren't going to be satisfied. As romantic as that song is, there's realism to it that I'm going to get what I want and then I'm going to want more of it. I'm not going to be satisfied. There's no lid to this. And it makes you wonder that if like the Greatest Showman and Mick Jagger and John Rockefeller and Diamond Rio are all expressing the same idea that more doesn't usually satisfy us, would Jesus have anything to say on this topic? This topic of our discontentment and our desires being insatiable. And wouldn't you know it, he does. So I want you to listen in to the words of Jesus. I have selected a few. I'm not even going to give you context, which is not my style. I like to build the context, but I'm going to just give you some of his words. Luke chapter 12, Jesus said, take heed, beware. Notice the double warning, like watch out twice. For what? Covetousness. For a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesses. Life is not about stuff. And that's a message that Americans could stand to put on repeat, especially in a world where we're constantly told that our value is found in what we drive or what we wear or the square footage of our house. We are constantly trying to assess our identity in these things. Luke chapter number 12, Jesus told one man that he should sell all that he has and give alms or go give it to the poor. And most people would say, that sounds drastic. Like that doesn't sound at all like what I've been told about how to financially get ahead. Like I've accepted Dave Ramsey in my heart and he told me to sell my stuff and do the debt snowball. You know, he didn't tell me to give it away. I gotta wait till I get financial security before I give my stuff away. How am I gonna make it? Jesus says in Matthew 6 that we should take no thought for our life, whether we eat or drink, nor yet for your body what you shall put on. Meaning don't spend all your mental energy on that, what you're gonna eat, what you're gonna wear. You say, well, Thursday I spent all my time thinking about what I was gonna eat. And then Friday was Black Friday. I went shopping. I went thinking about, what am I gonna buy for myself? What am I gonna wear? Some of you this morning stood in your closet and you mused long and hard about what you were going to wear. What is the perfect outfit for this season? I can't wear white anymore. Green. Is it Christmas? Yeah, I can wear green now. And you mused on that and you thought about what you're going to wear so that you could come to church and look good and sit in church and think about what you're going to eat for lunch after church. If I'm not thinking about that stuff, what should I be thinking about? Well, Jesus says, is not life more than meat and body more than raiment? Isn't there more than life than what you eat and what you wear? And of course, it's a rhetorical question. We know the answer is yes. Mark 4, Jesus tells us that the cares of this world, namely the deceitfulness of riches. It's interesting that he would say that riches are by nature deceitful, that somehow they're a personified con artist. The deceitfulness of riches and the lust of other things, they enter in and they choke the word that it becomes unfruitful. It is possible for stuff to have a suffocating effect on your soul. It is possible for stuff to actually choke out the spiritual life that should be in us. That's a warning. Mark 10, Jesus says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. And in a culture where we think rich people have arrived and that somehow that will make their life easier, Jesus is on record saying that riches can actually become a spiritual obstacle. Now, there's so much more that we could say, but here is the question for today. Is there a way to break free from the restless craving for more that all of us have at some level? Is there a practice from the life of Jesus that could quiet our noisy hearts and somehow bring the joy of enough? Of course, the answer to that is yes. It is the ancient, biblical, Jesus-endorsed, deeply freeing practice of simplicity. Some would call this contented simplicity. Let's get a working definition before we dive into this. Simplicity is the idea of abstaining from more purposefully in order to enjoy what matters most, namely God, are other human relationships, people, and then a contented heart. It is the idea of saying no to more so that I can have margin in my life, in my schedule, in my pocketbook. In my life, I have margin so that I can say yes to what matters most, to God, to other people, and the peace of a contented heart. Simplicity is not organizing. Let's get this straight. First of all, this is not a Marie Kondo sermon, okay? This is not run to Target, get 12 bins and a label maker. That's not what we're talking about. There's a place for organizing. I'm a very organized individual, and I like organizing, but that's not what we're talking about. We're also not talking about poverty. That's important to note. There's a difference between contented simplicity and poverty. There may be impoverished people who have contented simplicity, but there also may be rich people who have contented simplicity. We're not talking about poverty. Many people believe that Jesus was poor because he was born to relatively poor parents. We know this, Mary and Joseph, and they didn't even have a place for him to be born, right? He was born in a manger. We talk about this through the month of December, and people think that Jesus grew up extremely impoverished and lived extremely impoverished, which is not the case. Jesus, we know, was a tradesman before he was in full-time ministry, so to speak. I do put that in quotes, but he likely made a living wage. Once he was in ministry, he was supported by a very wealthy group of individuals, namely some wealthy women. As a matter of fact, Jesus had so much money flowing into the coffers of his ministry that he had to make and appoint one of the disciples as the treasurer to handle all of the funds because there was enough to handle. We know that treasurer didn't end very well for him, but he managed the money nevertheless. He became greedy as well, and it was his undoing. We know that Jesus was friends with poor people, but he was also friends with rich people, and he oftentimes was at their house, like eating and drinking, so much so that they said this guy is like overindulging. You know, he's a wine bibber, and he's a glutton, and he eats and he drinks too much. Even at the cross, you see that Jesus wasn't poor. Jesus had a garment that John 19 tells us was woven in one piece from top to bottom, meaning it was a very expensive piece of clothing. And it was so expensive and desirable that the soldiers cast lots for his garment at the foot of the cross. Remember that episode? The reason that they were casting lots is because they all wanted this item. It was not the leftover item from the yard sale that no one wanted. They all saw it as something that was valuable, it was worth money, and they all desired it, so they cast lots to see who would get it. That is not to say that Jesus was rich. We know that Jesus did not have lots of assets. He did not own a home. It's not like he had passive income streams that were feeding his ministry, and he maxed out his Roth IRA every year, and he was an excellent day trader of stocks. Like, that was not Jesus. We know that. But he wasn't poor. So when we talk about contented simplicity, we're not talking about being rich or poor, really. We're just talking about being satisfied with our station in life and trusting God and not needing more. You can have more, but it is really more than disadvantageous. It is perilous if you need more and you can't control your desires. Let us go to 1 Timothy chapter 6. This is perhaps the best section in Scripture on contented simplicity. There's so much here, and honestly, there's so much in the Scriptures. There's so much from the life of Jesus. There's so many stories of Jesus, but we will go here. I will start in verse 5, but I would draw your attention to verse number 2, where Paul, who is writing, mentions that these are the words of Jesus, that these are not just his words that he made up and are new, but this is actually what Jesus taught. And he says in verse number 5 that there's a lie that has existed for a long time, and it still floats around Christian circles today. And the lie is that more is better. Here's how he puts it in verse number 5. There are perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds. That's a negative thought right there. This is perverse, this is corrupt. These people are destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness. From such, withdraw thyself. So the assumption is that if you are economically healthy, then you must be spiritually healthy. If your income is on the rise and you're getting the promotion and the stocks are doing well and life is going well financially, then that's obviously because God's blessing you. We don't want to take credit away from God. Like, he's blessing me. This is why this is happening, which is true. And if he's blessing me, then I must be doing something right. I must be blessable. So if I'm getting more, that must be because I'm in God's good graces and I'm a stellar Christian, meaning gain is godliness. Godly people get more. This is at the core of the health, wealth, and prosperity gospel. And what Paul says is wrong. Wrong. You are making a fatal flaw of thinking that somehow God's graciousness or goodness to you, whether it be good health or whether it be financial success or whether it be anything, that somehow that's transactional and that's related to how good you are. That's not how grace works. It is a free gift of grace, and there are people that are wicked who flourish financially, and there are people who are godly who do not, quote unquote, flourish financially. That happens. And he says, it is a myth that somehow gain is godliness. That's not right. That's wrong. He calls it what it is. He says it's a lie. But he says, here's the truth. And he gives you a 3-pack of truths, each one in each verse 6, 7, and 8. Here it is in verse number 6. Godliness with contentment is great gain. Literally verse 6, godliness with contentment equals great gain. Now, if you have done any sort of investing at all, perhaps you have a 401k or an IRA through work, or perhaps you like to trade stocks, or maybe there's a business that you're an investor in, whatever it is, you're after great gains. When you invest in something, that's what you want. You're not trying to lose money. You're not trying to get small gains. You're after great gains. This is why Bernie Madoff was able to pull off a $65 billion Ponzi scheme, because Madoff promised great gains to people. They could have invested their money elsewhere and gotten gains, but here were great gains. And when you're forging the financial statements, you can make it seem as though they're getting great gains. But this is a great gain that God offers, and it's no cosmic Ponzi scheme. It is godliness, the pursuit of God and wanting to be more like him, coupled with contentment and not needing more stuff. That equals, in God's economy, great gain. You say, gain what? What am I going to gain if I have godliness with contentment? Time. You're not going to have to get your hustle on 24/7 and constantly be chasing a buck. Maybe even more money that you would have misspent on something that was just an overindulgence. You may gain joy. You may gain what you actually need to be able to be generous. You may gain a peace of heart. You may gain precious time with your children because you don't have to work 24/7 and take advantage of the overtime because you're still trying to pay off 2 years ago's Disney vacation that's on a credit card with 19% interest. You can gain a lot with contentment. And you put godliness with it. The rule here is it's great gain. Hebrews echoes the sentiment when it says that our lifestyle should not be a covetous lifestyle. And Hebrews says, quote, be content with such things as you have, for God said this, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Meaning, if you have God, isn't he enough? If you have God, what more do you need? Can't you just be content with the things that you have? So here's the formula. Not gain is godliness, but godliness with contentment is great gain. Then he says in verse number 7, a reminder that we all know, but this is something that cognitively we know, but this truth does not work its way into the crevices of our heart very easily. And he says in verse 7, we brought nothing into this world, and it's certain that we can carry nothing out. So do me a favor and think about all the things you own for a minute, okay? Think about your house, think about your cars, think about your four-wheelers or your boat, think about family camp where you go hunting, think about the jewelry that your grandma handed down to you, your knick-knack collection, all of the fish and deer on your walls. Think about all your stuff, okay? It's important to remember this unequivocal truth. You're not taking it with you. You're not, neither am I. This is a beautiful moment where we are reminded of the reality of life. That all that stuff is going to somebody else. And eventually, it may pass hands a few times. Eventually, it's going to be in a dump somewhere. It'll be buried in the ground. And all the things that we desire and desire and desire and desire, many of those things are going to be sold in an estate sale for pennies on the dollar for what you paid for them. You say, that's depressing. Listen, that's a good, healthy reminder. That'll adjust your paradigm a little bit to remember that all that stuff is going somewhere else. We didn't come into the world with anything. We're not going out of the world with anything. So, verse number 8, having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. You say, I have a different version here. I have the adjusted desire version. It says food and raiment and Wi-Fi and an ESPN subscription and a sleep number bed and a MyPillow. Then I'll be content. That's not what he says. Having food and raiment. You say, well, that sounds like overly idealistic. I mean, come on. Give me an Amazon Prime membership at least. Like, what are we doing here? Food and raiment, that's it. This is Holy Spirit inspired logic that goes back to verse 7, that we came in with nothing and we're going out with nothing. Meaning, when you came into this world, you needed to be clothed and you needed to be fed. That's what you needed. That's about it. And when you're headed out of this world, you're going to need some clothes and you're going to need to be fed. That's going to be about it. There's not a ton that we need. There are many things that we can do without. Now you say, Pastor, are you advocating that we go live like off-grid hermits with no electricity and no running water, and we just, I don't know, if I don't have a car, can I at least have a horse to ride or something? Is that what you're advocating for? It's not what I'm advocating for. He's not saying that to have more than that is wrong, but he is saying, while more than food and clothing isn't sinful, needing more to feel whole or to feel happy or to feel seen, needing more is something that is going to go sideways on you. That is where your discontentment is going to start to percolate. It's where you're going to start to have the comparison trap. It's where you're going to start constantly upgrading. It didn't break, you just wanted to upgrade it. The car worked fine, but this one has like LED lights around the logo, so I'll get that one, you know? It's where you're going to do a lot of damage to yourself, and all of a sudden you're going to shift from owning things to things owning you. And it's a dangerous game to play. And he's sure to say, listen, live in contentment. Now, if that wasn't warning enough or strong enough for you, get to verse 9 and 10 where he lays out this trap. And he tells you that the more you chase, the emptier you're going to feel. Many of us know this to be true from personal experience, but we somehow can't stop ourselves from desiring more and wanting more and chasing more and being discontent. But here's what he says. They that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare. Not to say that if you are rich, there's something wrong with that, but the desire to have more and to need more and to chase wealth, it's going to lead you into temptation and a snare, into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drowned men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which, while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Now you tell me, if you went to the doctor and you said, Doctor, I need a prescription. I have something, going on in my life, and I just need some help. He said, okay, I got a prescription for you. But there's a warning label on the bottle here. If you take this pill, there's some side effects. And you said, well, what's the warning label? And he said, this could potentially destroy your life. and lead you into damnation. And it would almost be like you would just like pierce yourself through and you'll just be filled with sorrow. You would say, yeah, and you got a different option? Like, I don't know, can I do some exercise or can I not take that pill? Like, those potential side effects are great enough where I'm probably going to avoid taking that pill. That's a lot. Paul is slapping the warning label on the desire to be rich and this covetous nature that can possess us, especially as Americans. I mean, you think about if this warning was needed in the first century, I don't know, maybe they had billboards back then, but best I know, there's no billboards. There's no marketing agencies. There's no algorithms tracking you and assigning you a specific profile and a specific avatar so that they can like literally micro adjust the marketing to push your buttons. No one's spending billions upon billions upon billions to try to fan the flames of your desire and to get you to purchase and buy more and more and more. That was not the case back then. We have every bit of what they had plus all of this on top of it. You think that these words are at all needful? You think if it was tough for them that it's even tougher for us? I dare say so. And he says, I want to give you a warning that those desires running out of control where you're not living in contented simplicity, they're going to hurt you. And you're left thinking like, well, what am I supposed to do? If it was hard for them, like if it's hard in Jesus' day, and it's harder for me now, like how in the world am I supposed to overcome this and to actually begin to live inside of contented simplicity? And listen to verse 11, he starts to tell you the trick. And there's so many outworkings of this basic instruction in verse 11, but the simple instruction is scalable, like to all generations, all time periods, all cultures. And here it is. Number one, recognize the lie that you need more and cut the supply. Here's how he says it. Thou, O man of God, and he was writing to a pastor, to Timothy, the man of God, flee these things. Run. Get away from them. I was thinking this week about our new airport that Pittsburgh has. I don't know if you've caught the news. I assume that you have. The new terminal is opened. I was there a couple times this week. My in-laws flew in for Thanksgiving, Maggie's parents, and I picked them up from the airport Tuesday evening about 11:20. And that's, if you're going to fly in, it's on the later side. But we scooped them up, and then we took them back to the airport. I took them back to the airport yesterday morning. About 4:30, we left the house and got them to the airport. And I was at the new terminal. It's beautiful. And I've been curiously intrigued over the last few weeks at the nostalgia that is possessing the Pittsburgh people over the old terminal. I don't know if you've noticed any of this, like on social media or in the news articles and such, but people are like somehow missing the old one. That like the new one, when I roll, across the floor, it's real quiet. The old one was like clickety, 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 clickety. You know what I'm talking about? It was those like 3-inch by 3-inch tiles, just clack, 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 the whole time you roll. And I missed that sound. And I'm like, I don't know why you missed this sound. People are bemoaning the fact that they no longer have like a train to ride on, like a tram to take you from security over to the gates. If you've ever flown out of Pittsburgh, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Meanwhile, I'm like, why would I miss that thing? Like at all, I don't understand it. And I was thinking about that train in inertia. Those trams are tricky. They got poles all in the middle and they got these hanging, handles everywhere because they understand like physics. They understand laws of motion. The things in motion tend to stay in motion unless they're acted upon by some sort of outside object. And when you're on that train, you either got to hold on to the pole or you got to get in surfer skateboard mode, right? Because it's going to take off and you're going to stay stationary and then it's going to stop and you're going to want to go forward, right? This is inertia. This is why you wear a seatbelt, or at least we're supposed to wear a seatbelt. I know some of you go to the junkyard and like cut off the old seatbelt and you just plug it in so it doesn't ding at you all the time and you never wear it. Some of you are like, that's a great idea. I'd never thought about that. Jim Rosenbauer gave me that idea, by the way. But you're supposed to wear a seatbelt because if your car hits something, you'll keep moving right through the windshield, right? That's inertia. There's a principle at play here that's more of a spiritual inertia that you have to understand. That let's say your desires are constantly being stoked by all the algorithms and the marketing and you just doing retail therapy left and right and it's just happening. And then like you read a passage of scripture or there's some conviction or maybe you hear a sermon on simplicity and you think, man, there's something to that. I got to stop that. I need to be more content. You will want to stop, but the desires of your heart are still moving at 70 miles an hour. And they will pull you forward. It takes a lot of work and honestly a lot of time. If you don't typically live in contented simplicity, and you want to start, it'll likely be a process of months of trying to adjust your heart and slow your speed and simplify your stuff or simplify your schedule or whatever it may be. It takes a tremendous amount of work, and you need to know this. And it takes what Paul says is fleeing. You need to run from those things. Now, I don't know a ton about fleeing. I've never fled a scene. Never had to flee for my life. Bears never chased me. But from what I know, it takes a tremendous amount of effort and intentionality. You don't lazily flee. You don't, by accident, somehow end up fleeing. It is a very purposeful, intentional, effort-driven initiative to flee what he's talking about here. Practically speaking, how do we do this? I want to give you 10 ideas to help you. Now, I could give you a lot more than this, but I want to try to give you 10 ideas on how you might practically flee these desires and discontentment and somehow pursue something greater. So take them with a grain of salt. I don't have a verse for all of them, but do your best. The first one is where I'll spend the most time. If it feeds your discontentment, don't feed it your attention. Here's what really is shocking to most of us. There are marketing strategies that are meant to get our attention and to get our dollars and to get us to buy more stuff. It is an open secret that our economy is built off of you somehow being discontent and wanting to buy more stuff. That is the underpinnings of our economy at scale. It's one thing if it's happening to you and you can't help it because they put a billboard up. It's an entirely different thing when we do it to ourselves, and we do it to ourselves. Think about why all those businesses want your email. You say, it's because they want to give me a 10% off coupon. Wrong. It's because they want me to be inside of their loyalty program so I can get 1/4% on everything that I buy. So if I buy $8 million worth of stuff, then I'll get a check for $8 this year. No, that's not it. They want your email so that they can put their ads in your email inbox, and we give it to them. Think about all the emails that it would do you a world of good if you unsubscribed from. Think about the catalogs that come to your house that you should turn off and say, I don't want those to come to my house any longer, or the magazines. Think about the influencers that you follow on social media who all they are is, outfit recommendations. All they are is toy recommendations and how to hack the Christmas list and find the stuff. And yes, 1 out of every 100 things they offer, you find an item that may be a great gift for your mother-in-law, but the other 99 are just fanning the flames of your discontentment and showing you things you never knew you needed it. You never knew you wanted it, but all of a sudden you need it and you want it. Think about the apps we put on our phone and we scroll through for fun. Scroll through the Temu app for 10 minutes today for fun and see if you don't have 87 items that are each $1.25 in your cart. Like, it's unbelievable. And we do it to ourselves. We opt in, we buy in, and at a certain point, you have to take inventory of the stuff and say, is this indexing my heart towards God and towards contented simplicity, or is this indexing my heart towards discontentment? And that's a hard question to ask, but it's an easy question to ask because you know the answer to it. You say, well, what do I do? Get out of it, flee it. Like unsubscribe from it and stop watching and listening and constantly being fed. Like you have a pipeline that is fueling your discontentment, and you have the ability in some ways to turn the pipeline off. So do that. I had to learn myself that I can't subscribe to emails from like Travel Zoo or somewhere like that because I know it'll happen. Winter will come, right? We got 2 seasons here. We got gray season, we got sunny season. And I know that each of those seasons have like sub-seasons under them, that like gray season contains cold season and pothole season and hunting season and stink bug season. I get that, but it's gray season, right? Then you got sunny season, which contains camping season and swimming season and fishing season and all that. But those are the 2 seasons. And when I get to gray season and Travel Zoo puts in my email inbox, here's the top 10 places that you can travel this winter for whatever they're advertising. 2 people for $300 can go to, I've had so many song lyrics this week, but every time I get an email from them, it's just Aruba, Jamaica. Like the Beach Boys, Kokomo is just, oh, I want to take it. It just comes to my head. And here's what it does. It makes me be very discontent and just, all it does is fuel like, I just want to get out of here. I don't want to be in the gray. I just want warm. I want sunshine. All it does is fuel that. And I've had to learn that's not helpful. Unsubscribe. But I may miss a deal that I could utilize at one point in time. Yeah, maybe. But what it does to my heart, personally, it doesn't add enough value for the damage it does to my heart. So think about like your life and where you are like actually putting yourself in the lane of discontentment and run from that. Secondly, live by a budget. This is not a budget sermon, but set some sort of limit on what you're going to live on, and then take the rest and give it away. John Wesley was famous many, many years ago for setting a budget of, I believe it was 28 pounds that he was going to live by. He earned 30 pounds at the time, so he gave 2 away, and he kept that budget his whole life. He always lived on 28 pounds. By the end of his life, he was making over 1,000 pounds from book sales, but he just kept living on 28. He said it was enough. It gives me what I need. It did then, and it does now. I don't need any more. I don't know what that would be for you. You can think about that. You can pray about that. You can talk with your spouse about what do we need. Maybe you want to adjust it for inflation or something like that. But where's the limit of what we're going to spend? Where does our standard of living stop increasing and increasing and increasing and increasing? And where does our standard of giving start increasing? Where does our standard of loving start increasing? Because we're going to actually cap this and like live by a budget. Third is learn to enjoy things without owning them. Like share. Yeah, you may need that pole saw to cut the tree limb off your tree in your backyard like once every 3 years, but your neighbor probably has one. Do you have to buy it? Like borrow stuff. Jesus was like the master at this. If you read about Jesus' life, he was couch surfing. He was borrowing donkeys to ride into town. He was borrowing rooms for a Last Supper. He borrowed a tomb to be buried in. Like my man borrowed everything. Take a note from Jesus and just say, you know what? I can borrow some stuff. I don't have to own everything. And the things that I do own, give some of them away. You haven't used it in 3 years. Well, I may use it down the road. Well, maybe. Like learn to borrow things, learn to give things away and just be content. Before you buy something, ask yourself, what's the true cost? This is a big one. So many times we overcomplicate our lives because we added something without really factoring in the cost. We factor in the financial cost. Oh, it's going to cost me this much to put a pool in. Well, how much time is it going to take you? How much time is it going to take you to earn the money to pay for said pool? And are you going to have to work overtime every time it's available now? And is that going to speed up the rest of your day because you have no off time and no downtime and really crowd your schedule? And when you factor in that time, factor in you have to maintain the pool and you have to keep the pH levels on the pool and you have to clean the pool and the pump broke, so now I got to fix the pool and I got to open the pool and I got to shut down the pool. And sometimes we're not good at factoring in all those things. And listen, if you have a pool, knock yourself out. I'm not against you having a pool. Maybe it's a great use of your time and it brings the family together, have at it. But factor the real costs of what something is going to take both in money and time in order for you to have that. And is that going to overcomplicate your life? Avoid impulse buys. Of course, any financial guru will tell you that. Like, think about it, pray about it, wait 24 hours, and avoid impulse buy. When you do buy, opt for maybe fewer, better things. How many towels do you need in your towel closet? Well, my friend one time hosted a Ugandan children's choir and needed 40 towels that one week. I may need 42. Probably not. It's just the two of you. 4 towels maybe? But you think about the things that we have and how profuse things can become in our closets, in our pantries, in our garages, in our attics, in our storage units. They say that the average family size over the last 50 to 70 years has been cut in half. Meanwhile, the average home size has doubled. That math don't math. Families are half as big, homes are twice as big. And to boot, we have enough storage unit space in our country to sleep the whole nation. There's enough square footage in storage units for everyone to have a bedroom. Why? Because we got stuff for days. Think about what you have. Think about, could I have less of that? Think about, could I just buy a few of these, but select like quality ones. Instead of having 87 sweaters, maybe just have 3 that you wear, but you love those 3. There's all kinds of exercises that go along with eliminating what you don't need. Oftentimes it's just asking yourself a question. It's taking items, holding them in your hand, and asking yourself, like, does this add value? Does this spark joy? Do I still use this? Do I still love this? And actually going and taking inventory. Now, for many of us, this would take a long time. Like, it'll take you a week or 2 in your closet alone, and then to do that in the garage, and then to do that in the pantry, to do that everywhere. It could take a long time, but ask yourself, like, what do I need, and start to eliminate. There's a fun exercise if you want to try it, which is eliminate 1 item a day for 30 days. Just find one. And it won't take you very long, I promise you. But do that for 30 days and then go from there. Maybe you can do 2 a day or go see where it leads. But oftentimes we just have more stuff and we don't even realize how it clutters physically and mentally our space. Tinker with a few exercises. There's so many I could give you, but like buying only consumables for a month would be one. You say it's December. That's not the month for it, probably, but try it. Eat out less, like once a week or once a month. Reduce your wardrobe to 5 or 6 outfits per season. You say, but if I have 5 or 6, that means I'm going to wear like the same outfit every Monday, and people will know. So what? Steve Jobs wore the same outfit every day and people applauded him for it. Just channel your inner Jobs or maybe your inner Jesus and have less outfits. Read Richard Foster's Freedom of Simplicity if you're wanting more ideas on this and to dive a little deeper. I would recommend that to you. All this to say, there's 1,000 ways for us to pragmatically flee what is these desires for more and to turn off the faucet of desire and to do our best to move towards contentment and simplicity in our lives. This is not to mention our schedules. That was all about stuff. Take this principle and apply it to your schedule. It very well may be that this is like the keystone practice that no one ever talks about in the practices of Jesus that actually could unlock all of the others. Think about if you had contentment on your stuff, how that would free you up to be generous because you're not spending your money left and right on all kinds of stuff. Think about if you had simplicity of schedule, how that would give you more margin and time to be able to have a Sabbath or be able to spend time in prayer or in reading the scriptures or these desires that you have, but you just don't have time for them because you're too busy. It could be that simplicity is like the keystone practice that could unlock so many for so many of us. But he doesn't end there. He doesn't say flee, period, end of sentence. He says, and Follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, meekness. The idea is that we would live lighter so that we can love better, that we can love God better, that we can love our neighbor better. The idea is not be practical, be intentional, be ruthless, and eliminate the things in your life that you don't need, and then stop there. It's just subtraction for subtraction's sake. No. The idea is this is subtraction for affection's sake. This is so that we can make space in our homes, in our budgets, in our schedules, in our lives, in our souls, so that we can have what matters most, which is God himself. The idea of simplicity is that we would be content and that we would say no so that we can prioritize what matters most. And Christian after Christian after Christian who has done this has found that there is a God who can satisfy the ache in your soul. That limitless desire that each of us have, that hole that we just can't seem to fill, try as we may. That it's God himself that invites us to lay down the burden of never enough and to enjoy him, the one who always satisfies, and to trade our discontentment for contented simplicity in him, to love him and to know him and to actually feed our heart what it craves deep down. Something or someone that is infinite and forever. I don't know if this is as much of a challenge for you as it is for me, especially going into December, right? It's like great timing. We preached on fasting the week before Thanksgiving. We preached on Sabbath the week before the busiest month of the year. And now you're telling me contentment before I'm supposed to shop till I drop? Like, come on. It's December. It's Christmas season. Maybe it's the worst timing, maybe it's the best timing, I don't know. But I know this is a challenge for me. And I know that there's a payoff if we will actually try to press into this and live lives of contented simplicity.
I pray that today's message challenged and encouraged you in your walk with Christ. And if this sermon was a blessing to you, know that it was made available because of our financial partners. I want to take a moment and invite you to be a part of that tribe. I know not everyone's in a position to give, and if that's you, then please just let this broadcast be a blessing. There are no strings attached. But if God's blessed you with the ability to give, I would love for you to link arms with us and support what God is doing here. As a small way of saying thank you for your generosity, I'd love to send you a copy of my new book, The Prayer Jesus Gave. This is a guided tour through the model prayer, the Our Father, as some call it. And if you've ever felt like your prayer life could use an upgrade, I know it will be a help. You can give and receive your copy at harvesttoyou.org/give or by mailing a donation to the address on your screen. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next Sunday.